Friends, Jordan Montgomery here, and we're glad that you've tuned into another episode of the Growth Over Goals podcast. Before we jump into today's conversation, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Thompson & Co. Salon and Parlor. Thompson & Co. Salon and Parlor is a family-owned, stylist-owned community salon that fits the needs for all types of families. Located in downtown Iowa City and now a second location in Coralville, North Liberty area, TCO specializes in all things hair. In fact, that's where I've been getting my hair done for the last 7 years. TCO specializes in hair cutting, razor cutting, the most modern color techniques, and high-end hair extensions. As one of Iowa's only inner coiffure salons and Salon Today's top 200 salons in the U.S., TCO looks forward to being the salon of choice for you and those you love. Be sure to call or book on their website today at thompsonandcosalon.com. Thank you, TCO, for all you do for us and our community. Welcome back to the Growth Over Goals podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Montgomery, and today I'm with a guest that many of you know, some don't, but you will for sure know her and be very aware of her talent, her ability, and her heart when we get done sharing this conversation. Rachel Cruze, best-selling author, has written multiple books, including Know Yourself, Know Your Money, Love Your Life, Not Theirs, Smart Money, Smart Kids, and my personal favorite, I Am Glad for What I Have, which is a children's book that is in our bedtime rotation of children's books with our kids. Rachel is a mom, a wife, a strong person of faith, a dynamic keynote speaker, a certified coach, and she is a great follow on social media. So you're going to want to follow Rachel Cruze. Rachel Cruze, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jordan. Thanks for having me. I so appreciate it.
Well, hey, this is fun. Shout out Brad Lomenick, who connected us.
That's right.
You are known as a financial expert, but I want our listeners to hear this as we step into today's conversation. I think you're so much more than a financial expert, Rachel. I think you're a person of great wisdom and discernment. I think you're helping people make wise decisions. I believe you're helping people grow in their faith, as you share information about money. I truly believe that you're salt and light and you're being the hands and feet of Jesus to the world. So I want to say thanks for
Thank you.
The fact that you're doing that type of work in that type of way, because there's a lot of ways to talk about money. But I think the way that you're living out your business and your mission is really pretty special. So some people know this about you. Some people might not. You are the daughter of Dave Ramsey. You are a Ramsey personality. So you are a part of the largest organization in the world to give financial advice, expertise. I mean, there's shows and podcasts and books, and the resources that you are attached to and a part of are vast and wide. And so our listeners might want to know, what was it like to grow up with Dave Ramsey as a father?
Yeah, this is a question I get a lot, which I totally understand. And I think, I always laugh because I'm like, I think the assumption is that we had mutual fund birthday parties growing up and like budget camps every summer and all of that. And thankfully that was not the case. Mom and Dad, they were intentional with teaching us how money works for sure, but they did it in like such a great way. I mean, it was such in the ebb and flow of life. It was never this legalistic type of subject in our home. I mean, it was, I think they did well preparing us for it on a tactical sense and an emotional sense with money. Look, we were never given an allowance as kids. We were always on commission. So you work, you get paid. You don't work, you don't get paid. You had to give some of it, save some of it, spend some of it, so all of the tactical side of money as a kid, they did, and they implemented it. It was great. But they also did a great job, I think, of the emotional side of money, which is, I think, as big as the tactical. Our hearts around money and how we view it is really important. And so these topics like contentment, which is about the kids' book that I wrote that you guys love, which I'm so thankful y'all love it. Contentment, generosity, the place that money sits in your life, not making it this idol, right? Or almost its own God in your life. And so how do you put it in its proper place? So even those conversations and watching their example, I think was really big. And so they did a really good job, but it was not we we did not have seminars about 401ks and Roth IRAs every Saturday. So it was not that type of home, thankfully.
Well, I love that your origin story is actually, correct me if I'm wrong here, but your parents filed bankruptcy in the same year that you were born. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So
I was
you
born in
lived
April.
this.
Yeah. So I was born in April and they filed in September. So it really was, obviously I don't remember the initial part of it, but yeah, growing up in an environment where they were, early memories, they're still kind of climbing out of that hole of financially of a bankruptcy and all of it. And it's amazing how much, and you probably talk about this a lot on your podcast with leaders, but how much pain and suffering is it? It's a beautiful teacher. It's a hard teacher, but it is such a thorough teacher. And you can take that pain and suffering in life that we all experience on different degrees in different ways and just kind of sit in it for the rest of your life and, complain and it be hard. Or I think there's a level that you choose to say, okay, I am going to sit in part of it and work through that pain and suffering, but also how can I turn this? Like, what is the good in this, right? And scripture is clear about that he works all things together for good, that for those who are called according to his purposes. And so there's a beauty in that. And that's where this whole place birthed out of. Ramsey Solutions came out of pain and suffering. It came out of the bankruptcy of a prideful 20-year-old guy named Dave who thought he knew everything. And then turns out he didn't. And so having to understand how this subject of life works. And so it's an interesting part of my story for sure. Of that's where this whole mission began in the same year that I was here.
Well, I think it was Craig Rochelle on our podcast recently who said your deepest hurt can become your greatest ministry.
Yes.
And I think about your ministry, Rachel, and the way that you're reaching people. And it's kind of fun to know that it came from some hurt, and not fun in a sense that, hey, we're glad that happened to you, but just inspiring and fun for people who might be going through something tough to know that, like, hey, the very thing that you're going through might just be preparing you to do the work that God has for you or has called you to. So
very much so, yeah.
It's not lost on me, and it's not lost on some of our listeners that you're up for a good debate. And we were talking about this offline. What I love about the way that you debate and the way that you share is you're pretty grounded. You're sticking to your guns on biblical principle and values. And so I promise you listeners, we're do the feel good stuff here in a little bit with like gratitude and joy and contentment. But before we do the feel good stuff, I want to go, I want to expose some lies that culture sells us on money. I heard you give a talk at Life Church. It was awesome about, that's Craig Rochelle's church. And you deliver this great message about lies, cultural lies around money. And so can we just dive right into some of the issues that you see with America today and some of the things that we might be believing about money that aren't so healthy for us?
For sure. Absolutely. Yes. Because there's a lot of them, a lot of those lies.
Well, I'll let you just tee off, and we might not get to all of the lies because they're vast and they're numbered, but what are some of the things that you just see crippling people and how they view money or spend money? I'd love to hear you.
And there's a lot, so they may not overlap with the Life Church talk. I can't really remember.
That's okay. Yeah, I've heard you talk a lot about exposing.
But yes, yeah. So I think it's more of it's a tactical sense, but I think there's also an emotional part of this is around the subject of debt. And I think because of especially where we are today, even from an economic stance, it's really difficult. People are really struggling, and the credit card debt is at an all-time high. We're seeing more people living paycheck to paycheck. The housing market feels impossible to get into if you're not a homeowner now. So there's a lot of things that feel against you. And the avenue of debt is a very easy one to access and to walk down. And a lot of people believe that that's the only way to do it. And so there is a truth that the borrower is slave to the lender, and Proverbs talks about that. And I think that I always say debt is not a sin. It's not a salvation issue. So you can have a student loan and go to heaven. It's fine. But what it does is like it limits your options. And I think that there's an emotional side to that. When you owe someone something financially, it keeps you in a place that you probably don't want to be. It keeps you in a job that you may hate, but you have to pay the bills. It limits your freedom. And there is something so freeing about walking through life without debt. And I know people listening now, if you are in debt, like the average American, you're probably thinking, gosh, Rachel, that sounds nice and easy, but the way you're talking about it, but that's impossible for me. And so being able to walk people through even just that subject overall, I think is really big. And I think that, again, it's this assumption with money that people have, and it's kind of their go-to response or their backup response is debt. And they walk down that road so easily, and they get to the mid part of it and they're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm stressed. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, and this is not giving me what I thought it was going to give me.
So I've heard you say that 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. You said, hey, y'all, the Joneses are actually broke. So be careful. I love that.
That's right. Yeah.
And then you said it's okay to have nice stuff. Just don't let your nice stuff have you. So can you talk to us about when is it okay to have some debt? Is there such thing as good debt? What are your philosophies on good debt, bad debt? Talk to us about the debt topic, because it's a hot topic, right? And I've heard people, call into the show and they're like, hey, but I don't believe that, and I have some debt and it's okay. And I'm putting money in other areas where I'm getting, so let's do this. Can we? Is there such a thing as
for sure.
debt?
Yeah. I mean, I think, I kind of look at all debt as dangerous. And again, going back to just an idea of common sense and scripture, every time debt is mentioned in scripture, it's in a negative fashion. And so again, I think wisdom would say, let's live below our means. And if we don't have the money, we're not going to buy it. And that can go into real estate investing and all of that. People get into all of that, or I'm going to borrow my 401k here to do this. I mean, whatever it is, you end up complicating and your risk level goes up when you have debt. Now, a mortgage is the one type of debt I won't yell at you for, but everything else, I mean, I think it's a system designed to keep you honestly attached to the bank. I mean, you look at, the way credit cards, that whole industry is set up, car loans, you're paying interest on something that's going down in value and asset. And I think the problem is that we have glorified so much of our stuff and an expectation of a lifestyle. And if we don't meet that, then we're like, well, I'll just go into debt for it. And then again, you end up down this road. And so I think it's a leveling of expectation. I think it's a leveling of having a plan and actually being intentional with it and examining expectations. I mean, the world of social media, I think, has done a lot of damage in so many ways. And one of them is that we get a glimpse into people's worlds that we don't even know, or we don't even know the true story of what's going on. So true. And suddenly our expectation of what our kitchen should look like, or the car that we're driving, it starts to kind of shift, and it is wild. I mean, it's wild. So there's something about, again, just that freedom that I think is big. But again, I'm not against stuff. That quote, I do like that quote, that it's okay to have nice stuff. Just don't let your nice stuff have you. And it has you when you go into debt for it. And it does have you when your identity or your self-worth somehow is tied to that thing, your joy, your happiness. If I could just have that, I would be okay. That's like one of the biggest lies I feel like our culture believes. If I can just get that, everything's going to be okay. And it's not. It's still you. And so there's a lot to unpack there for sure. But also, I'm not against stuff. So I'm like, you can have nice stuff. Just do it with a proper motive and financially in a wise way. And that thing isn't going to stress you out. It's not going to be the thing that defines you.
So good. I've heard you talk so much about parenting and marriage. We're going to go there in the context of money. Love how you help couples navigate and parents navigate the topic of money. You actually mentioned that money in scripture is referenced more than heaven and hell combined. Is that right?
So Old Testament, New Testament, it's pretty wild. Yeah.
Yeah. And we told our listeners, Rachel sticks to her guns. So you just watched her do that. I just challenged on, is there good debt? And you said, hey, this is what I believe. So, by the way, we're not asking you don't have to believe everything that Rachel believes, but Rachel, I'm a believer, and I'll just say, I support the work that you're doing, the heart that you do it with. I also have a background in financial services, and I know the financial services world is loaded with opinion. It's just loaded with theory and philosophy. And so that's where a lot of the debate comes from. And I also think you're really open-minded, but so much appreciate how you stick to your guns. What are some of the biggest issues you see, like with couples and the topic of money? And then with those issues, how are you helping couples navigate the topic of money?
Yeah, I mean, talk about debate. The number one thing that I probably get the most hate on when it comes to what I talk about is when I tell couples to combine their checking accounts and to combine their money. I get more people coming after
That's
me
the big
when I say
thing.
that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. They hate it. Hate it. And so, and that's what I would say. I think one of the biggest lies that for couples is that you can run this independent race apart from your spouse with this one subject. We don't do that when you share a bed at night. You don't do this when you have kids. You have a child with your genetics running around in front of you that is shared. I mean, every part of our lives is shared when we enter into marriage. And this is it from a spiritual perspective or not. This could be somebody that's, not a believer or have a spiritual walk. But this idea that we can take this one subject and say, well, I'm just going to have mine and you're going to have yours. It doesn't work long term. You end up dividing yourselves so deeply where you end up being roommates. I mean, I talk to couples and they'll Venmo each other after dinner to like split the bill. I mean, it's just, it is wild. And your heart and your posture around money is going to be a reflection of so much. And when I talk to couples too, and they have, money issues, you really start to realize as you dig in and ask questions, it's not money issues, it's marriage issues. There's trust issues going on. There's, a level of disrespect or this or that, or selfishness. I mean, all of it, right? So like, there's so much under there and it can come out of the avenue of money, but what's really going on is that. And so I challenge couples to combine your finances. It's not her money, his money. I don't care who brings in the paycheck. It is our money together. We're going to do a budget together. We're going to share a checking account together. And what that does is it forces you, not only from a communication aspect, but it forces unity. It forces you to talk about life. And that's what money is. Money is a tool that we use in our lives, right? So it's a tool that you're using to plan a vacation. It's a tool you're using for your kids' soccer season, like whatever it is, that you use money for your life. And when you're not using it together, suddenly, oh my gosh, we're making different decisions. And what ends up happening, your values start to separate too. So I'm really big on this, and couples will come back and they're like, well, we fight all the time. So we just separated our accounts and now we don't fight anymore. And I'm like, yeah, because you freaking swept the whole thing under the rug. And the one issue you actually should be fighting about, you're ignoring. So like push into the conflict, like push into it. So there's a lot there. Now, I will say with a big disclaimer, always, 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 because sadly, this is becoming more prominent. Somehow, I think it is happening, or it's being talked about more. If there is levels of, infidelity or addiction, abuse, if there's that kind of stuff, and I would say in the Christian space, I'll be honest, Jordan, there's some weird toxic stuff that, well, I'm the man and I'm going to tell her. I mean, you get into some weird things that I don't think are healthy on that side either. And so, So again, if there's like a danger and a red flag, you need to protect yourself, man or woman. So hear me say that loud and clear. But for couples out there that are just, living their lives and, we're all broken, but you know what I mean? Like you're somewhat, don't have an extreme situation, then you push in and work together on this. I mean, it is just, I'm so big on it. I'm so big on it because it creates unity. It creates, vulnerability. I mean, I think there's so much there when you lay everything out and you say, okay, we're going to do this together. And it's more fun. I'll say that too. Yeah. You accomplish your goals faster. You see the problems together. Like you actually are a team. So
yes. So
this could be a whole episode, Jordan. I could go just on about money and marriage because it's a big one. It is.
Listen, and I'm here for it. And this is such as a coach, we get so many questions about marriage and money and just inexperienced people who are going through, hard stuff around money. And actually, to your point, they think it's a money issue and it's not. It's a marriage issue. But just real quick, so we can get a little practical here, and then we'll move on. I want to talk parenting. On the marriage topic, though, what would you advise someone to do if they're like, "Hey, Rachel, it's not the crazy stuff that you just mentioned. Like, we're good, we're normal people. Like, yes, we're broken, but we just can't get on the same page as it pertains to major purchase or how much we should save or kids' college. Like I'm just not on the same page with my spouse." What are some steps that you're advising people to take? Because somebody's listening to this going, "Rachel, that's great advice, but where do I start? And what's the next 1 or 2 steps that I should be taking to get on the same page with my spouse?"
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely a goals conversation to have together to say, hey, we have to find alignment on these big subjects. So whether it's like a move coming up, a purchase of a home, how much you're wanting to invest or save per month. And so what I have found though is probably any subject in marriage, I think this is true. Your spouse is going to see life so differently. Their experience growing up in their childhood home was so different than you. Their tendencies around money are so different than you. So instead of seeing them as the obstacle or as the wrong one, that you're wrong, actually ask yourself, okay, what are they seeing that I'm not? Because we all naturally have blockers. And so there may be something there. And my husband and I are this. We are so opposite. Winston is a saver. I am a spender. He could have Excel sheets out the wazoo. And even though I'm the one that teaches about money every day, that's not me. I'm not a detailed person, overly detailed with money. Again, so much of us are so opposite when it comes to money. But he also we see the value in each other. And we've had to learn that. I mean, we've been married almost 15 years. And so there's been this level of, oh my gosh, yeah, I feel like he can be stingy at times. But also there's such wisdom in his slow decision-making. You know, like you start to almost appreciate, hey, what they're offering, there's parts of that are really good that is not innate in me. And so I think there is hey, put yourself in the other person's position. And then I do think, again, I'm not a marriage therapist, but like there is going to be a give and take in some of this, right? So there is going to be some seasons that you're like, you know what, we're going to be in a saving mode. And that's not what I would probably do, but I can see where they're coming from. And for a season, this. And then there's going to be another season of the other side. And it's kind of this back and forth, right? Now, if it's always one person's side that's constant, I think that's going to get draining really fast over marriage.
Yes.
But if you both, again, see each other and you're talking this out, you're seeing it, understanding it, I think you can get to an agreeable point faster than you may even realize. And you may get down the line and change your mind and you guys shift and change. And that's the other beautiful thing. This doesn't have to be set in stone forever and ever. And so I think that would be big. That would be probably my biggest advice when it comes to it. Cause I get it. I'm in that kind of marriage. You know, we both see things very differently at times.
Well, and I think most people have a spouse that is very different from them. We've been practicing this in our house. It's not wrong. It's just different, right? So you're not wrong. Yes. You're different and I'm not wrong. I'm just different. We're going to see things differently. But what you said that I underscored is what am I missing? There's something I'm missing. There's something I could learn from you. And I think that posture is so healthy, not just when we're navigating the issue of money in marriage, but when we're navigating really any issue in the context of our marriage. I want to talk parenting. You've written children's books. You wrote a book with your dad. The book you wrote with your dad on parenting became a #1. It wasn't just a New York Times bestseller. It was #1 New York Times bestseller. That is like, in the book world. So if you don't keep up with the book world, I'm assuming you don't, if you're listening, that's like the Grammy of the Grammys. Like you and your dad wrote a book together on this topic, father-daughter, that just reached and impacted so many people for good. And so I want you to talk just to us real quick about what parents can do to help their children learn about money and save and steward money. This is a leadership podcast. We're kind of doing a stewardship podcast today, but I like it. I'm here for it. How do we help our kids steward resources and money?
So good. Well, that book actually that I wrote with my dad was funny is before I was a parent. So I was kind of the kid's perspective in the book and he was the parent's perspective. And then now that I have 3 kids of my own, I'm like, oh, this is funny. I could actually like look back and be like, okay, do I agree with all this still? Thankfully, yes, I pretty much do.
I was going to say, are you still aligned with what you said?
It's harder. Then? Yes. I'd say it's harder than I probably realize, just like much anything in life. It's easier said than done. But when you're actually in it, you're like, oh, I'm exhausted and I don't want to do a chore chart this summer because we are running around and I'm tired, So there's a reality to it that's very real. So I think with, kids and money, #1, it's kind of cliche, but it's honestly so true. Is that your example is everything and more is caught than taught.
Yep.
Your kids are watching you all day. You can say everything, but the way you interact with anything, but money specifically with this, they're going to be watching. They're watching mom, when if she's stressed and she's spending. They're watching dad if he's agitated because of a bill and the stress of that, or like whatever it is, the emotions or the obsession about stuff and what we're valuing and this or what you're putting on your kids. I mean, like they're seeing all of this and they're going to expect, as kids do, the way you do it is right. So they're watching you and they're going to say, okay, the way mom and dad do this is the right way to do it. And then of course we all grow up and have some counseling and realize that's not always the case. But it's really important, your example. And a lot of parents, Jordan, I find they just tap out of the subject because they are stressed and struggling with this and with money. And they think, who am I to talk about this subject because we're living paycheck to paycheck, or, we're deeply in debt, or we don't have savings, fill in the blank. But I would always encourage parents, kind of like what we were saying at the beginning of this, like, I came from a bankrupt family. You're like, you know what I mean? Like you, no matter where you are, you have the ability to teach your kids this, and your example and them watching you is going to be everything. And that's everything from giving, from saving, spending, all of it. So number one, the way you live with money is the way they're going to assume is the right way to live. Yeah. And then I would also say the emotional side of money, I think, is really important for kids. And this is one of the reasons I wrote these kids books. I didn't want to write a tactical kids book about like how to save, quarters in a jar and all of that. There's a time and place for that, but there's an emotional piece to money, and that the environment and the world our kids are growing up in, that I just wanted to hammer in my own kids' minds and hearts, and others as well, that, man, like the importance of where our stuff and the things that we have in life, like where we place that of importance, is really big. And that, again, we said this a little earlier, but this contentment piece, I think, is so crucial, because we live in such an instant gratification world. We can get anything we want when we want it. True. And my kids fall for this. I fall for this at times. And my kids, they were leaving the dentist, out of all places, and the dentist has like a little treasure box, and they were just, when do we get to go to the treasure box? When do we get to go to the treasure box? Like these free little like things. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys. And I reminded them, I was like, y'all, the excitement that you feel over this new little like sticky hand thing or whatever it is that you're going to grab, that excitement is like actual chemicals in your body. It's dopamine. Like things are happening inside of you. Yep. But your happiness and your joy, you cannot depend on this feeling for your happiness and joy, because that's going to reflect in what you buy. Because mommy feels this when I buy something new, a new shirt, you kind of get this like, oh, this kind of rush, and it's exciting. And then it goes away. And when people live like that day after day, it messes with you, not just from your checking account standpoint, but your life and your heart. So the contentment, emotional piece of things, I think is just huge. But then the tactical side, having them earn money, knowing that that's where money comes from. They won't get paid for everything, but have a couple of things you pay them on around the house, and teaching them and showing them, we're going to give some, we're going to save some, save up for something, and you can spend some and make some mistakes and, do what you do. And it's good lessons and it's great. So, there's some big pieces there, but again, you don't have to be legalistic about it. I always tell parents that, because some Ramsey fans can be very hardcore with their kids. And I'm always like, and I'm like, guys, it's okay. A lot of grace in this. There's a lot of grace.
It's so good. Well, you got some followers that are kind of all over the spectrum, but I know there are some who are very, very dedicated and principled when it comes to this topic of money. So you had this quote: "In a heart filled with gratitude, there is no room for discontentment." And, I'll just say this as an observation. I think as I watch you from afar and listen to you teach and listen to your show, and I've heard some of your talks and I've read your books, there's just a spirit of joy and gratitude that comes out of you. But I think it's because you're connected to the right source. I love what you just said about, happiness and joy, and it can't be tied to stuff. Do you want to talk just a little bit about how faith has played a role in not just your life, but really in this work, in this mission to help people with their money? Talk to us about, what God's taught you, what he's teaching you now about this work, the topic of money, and why it's so important.
Yeah. Scripture, obviously we said it earlier, but it's full of direction and instruction on the subject. So it's a really beautiful thing that we have that. And it works shockingly when you follow it. You're like, oh, this works. But there's also I think that, not to have, a quote unquote higher power or something, because our organization, it's very faith-based, but we have people from all walks of life that, follow our plan, which is wonderful. But it is true that, you can have the retirement account, you can do the baby steps, you can have the paid for house, you can do all of it. And if there's not something more in your life, and in my case, it is Jesus, there is not something spiritually tied to you, then a lot of it just ends up empty. It
so
does.
Good. Yep.
And so there's an element that this world, there's so much more than money. And that's what's hard is money becomes the focal point for people sometimes out of pain and necessity because they're stressed because they don't have it and they have no savings and they're losing a job. And suddenly they become obsessed with this topic because they kind of have to be because they don't know how they're going to pay their bills, right? So I want to take that off of people and get them on a plan so that they have peace and that it doesn't have to become this thing that they're obsessed with. But then on the other end of the spectrum, it can easily become a thing that we become obsessed with and we want to strive and go and all of it. And you know, it's, I grew up in an entrepreneur's home, obviously. And so like working hard and having skills and doing excellent work, you know, all of that is so wired in me and it is also so good. But I'm also one that I'm like, I don't even want to tell people like for a money goal, like I wouldn't even have like, oh, I want to have $1 million by the time I'm X age or all of this. Cause even like these kind of goals, and I understand some people are just so math oriented and that's what they want to do. But even like that aspect of it ends up so empty for me. Like, again, I want people to be wise and I think it's powerful to change your legacy. And there's so much good money does. And I think the generosity portion of all of this is so huge and helping further God's kingdom and plugging into places around the world that people are doing incredible stuff. Like money's a tool. It's amazing. But this idea of this emptiness of these goals can quickly come and become a thing for you. And I think when you're spiritually discerning, and I think that there's a level of that you are truly walking in how Jesus walked. I mean, I think there's something freeing for me to say, gosh, my goals, like, again, I want to be wise with money. It's a balance.
Yep.
But also it can easily become on the other side. And it can easily be, I'm just striving for the next thing, whether it's a number or it's an item or whatever it may be. And the funny thing is you if you get it and you accomplish it, awesome. But then the finish line moves again. And then you're in the next thing and the next thing, right? So that contentment piece, I think, is a spiritual practice that comes from the Holy Spirit. And it makes everything else great and it works well, but money doesn't become the central point. And I think I see that a lot. And it's, and I just, I don't know why. It's one that I'm like steering away from. And even other Ramsey personalities may disagree with me on that. But I mean, even recently, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't like the idea of, I'm going to have $1 million by X amount age. Like, there's an emptiness there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You know, as you're talking, Rachel, I'm thinking about the book of James describes wisdom most closely to the word, connects it with the word peace. And so I love all that you've done, all that your company has done around getting people to a place of peace and wisdom. You know, and I even think about this conversation today, and it's not really financial advice. It's not financial information. It's financial wisdom tied to biblical principle, which ultimately helps us find peace and joy and contentment and stay closer and walk closer to Jesus. So thank you for your work. Thanks for your leadership. You know, it's funny offline. I hope it's okay that I'm sharing this. You're like, I know it's a leadership podcast, but we're not really going to talk about, leadership, like leading big teams. And I'm like, no. We're going to talk about making wise decisions and fighting for peace and joy and contentment.
Our friend Brad Lominick, he's always like, leadership, Rachel. And I'm like, gosh, Brad, okay, I can go there, but you're the expert on leadership, not me.
But hey, I'm going to push back on that. I think you're helping leaders in a really big way. And I think more than anything, you're helping people lead themselves. And I am the toughest person that I'll ever have to lead. And you're helping me today. So thank you for helping me. Thanks for helping my family. Thanks for the good work that you're putting out into the world. Anything else that you want to leave our listeners with? Any words of wisdom, joy, hope, or anything that we didn't cover today that you want to make sure that we hear before we sign off?
Yeah, I think, this subject can bring a lot of hopelessness for people. I think people are, again, like we said earlier, it's just, it's a hard time. And I think, maybe if, those of you listening, some of you feel like, oh my gosh, this is just a big weight I'm carrying. But I just want to be a voice of encouragement that there is hope in this, that this doesn't have to be the stressor in your life, that the subject doesn't have to be the thing that's rooted in so much anxiety and loss of sleep, that you really can make different decisions and change the way maybe you view the subject of money or the tactical side of how you actually handle your money. But we see it every day on the Ramsey Show. People do this. I mean, they're getting out of debt. They do their debt-free screams. We hear the success stories, which is so fun. Not every person that puts out content hears the success stories, but we get that a lot, which always is it's so gratifying. And so it just reminds me, like, regardless of your walk of life, where you came from, where you're at now, debt level, income level, there really is hope. There is hope that you can find that level of peace. And again, that's a tactical side of it and an emotional side, but it is possible. So if you are hopeless, just know there really, really is a way to find hope in this.
Well, thanks for bringing us hope and some perspective and ultimately wisdom tied to peace and biblical principle. Just so much appreciate, Rachel, your investment of time and energy. You're busy. You're not like sitting around looking for things to do. You got a lot going on. I mean, you're getting pulled in a lot of different directions and your time is super valuable. And so we just appreciate you investing it with our community and some of our friends. I'm going to be rooting for you for a long time to come.
Well, thanks, Jordan. Thanks for all the work that you do as well. So I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
God bless you, my friend. This has been another episode of the Growth Over Goals podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Montgomery. Thank you for listening. Thanks for being here. If you found any value in this episode, I would love it if you would rate, review, subscribe to this podcast in an effort that we might move our mission of impact forward. I also want to say thank you to our producers, John Choate and James Roth of Storyline Multimedia, for all of the work that they do behind the scenes to make this podcast go. Be well, be great. Have a wonderful day.